Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today I'm going to walk you through your 2021 Thor W31 Quantum. We are just going to start off the back of the unit on the right. That's where you get your ladders. You can go up and check all your seals periodically up on your roof. And in addition to that, you do have some solar panels up there, so you're going to want to make sure that you clean those off every once in a while so you can get a good pure charge. You're going to want to clean those with just a soft microfiber and some warm water. Please don't use any chemicals, otherwise you could ruin the finish of the panel. In this back bumper here, typically you can pull this tube out, this cap off, and that's where you can store your sewer hose after your first use. We have a brand new one located inside the front part, which is why it's not in there yet. And then you get your standard twist lock 30 amp connection. Pulling that off, you get that notch there. It lines up with this notch on this side. Plugging that in, plugs you in. Follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug end. Now a lot of campsites may not have this, so we do include that 15 amp park adapter to go down from 30 in case you have the unit at home and you want to run your fridge, or your campsite only has 15 amp service. But just keep it in mind, if you are going down to 15 amps of power, you're not going to be able to run anything like your air conditioner. Realistically, it's just to run your fridge and your lights. Inside here is just some storage space. That's also where your 15 amp park adapter is located. And then in this next compartment, you do get your sewer outlet. Take that cap, twist it off. Your sewer hose is right here. Clicks, locks into that guy there, and you'd be able to dump all your water. You're always going to want to empty your black tank first. This is going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets, and then you come behind that with your gray valve, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. Now, if you were just quick dumping, you could run it right out of the compartment here, but let's say you were hooked up because you were at a seasonal site or you're out of sight for a while, you can undo this little door cover here. Once you loosen it off enough, pops out of the way. You could just run your sewer hose straight down if you wanted to. But try and remember to do that up so it doesn't get any excess dust inside of here. It also keeps any critters out. There's your exterior shower, and that opens with your standard 751 key. Furnace exhaust, whenever your furnace would be running, that'll be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. Then you got your city water connection, so if you're at a site with service, you just thread a garden hose in there, plug it in, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. And then right down below here, another storage tank. It's also where you're going to find your starter kit. It's where, again, you're going to have 15-foot water hose, 10-foot sewer hose, as well as a couple other goodies. That's where we do store that. Inside here, it's your hot water service port. Typically, the only things you really need to worry about is turning on that power switch that supplies power to the thermostat inside. Once you were done winterizing completely, you could crack this pressure relief valve, leave it cracked open for the duration of winter. It's very important you do so, because that way, once the antifreeze does start expanding during those cold winter months, it doesn't crack your extremely crackable copper coils. It just allows it to flow out as it needs to. Now, this isn't going to be like your standard water heater for winterization. There's no bypass valves behind it. You just want to run antifreeze through the system, and that's that. There's no bypass valves, and if there is, don't touch them. The next few compartments is just storage, and then in this last one here, you are going to get the service port for your generator, in case you're doing that yourself. Up front, you get your standard Ford chassis. Now, wherever you park, it is going to be very crucial that you put your parking brake on. That's going to be important for when it does come time to putting down your stabilizer jacks or running your slide out. Up here, this is just going to be a service port for your motor, for your slide out system. That's how you get access to it. Inside this one is your little exterior kind of sound system area. You got your TV, and then right down below you do get a sound bar. It tells you have Zone A and Zone B speakers, but Zone A are the only ones hooked up. It's going to run through the sound system. Other than that, it works like your pretty standard sound bar. Again, this one will be storage, service port for your hydraulic motor, for your slide outs, and then inside this one, opening that guy down, that is where you get access to your inverter. You really don't have to worry about it too much under there. The control is inside. Inside here, you're gonna notice there's no locks on it, because This is where you get access to your propane. Pretty standard. You get that knob there, counter or clockwise all the way to close off the flow. Opening up the flow opens up the flow of propane, and you are on. There's a level gauge inside here as well as inside the bus. Just a couple standard plugins. Again, you do get some more storage. So your fuel fill for the unit, freshwater fill. So if you're out boondocking, out traveling, whatever else, you want to carry some water on board in case someone's going to use the bathroom or whatever else. This is how you fill water in. Goes inside that tank, drain for which is inside, and I'll show you that after. It is underneath the bed. Down here, propane quick connect line. Again, if you had a little barbecue that you didn't want to have to carry an extra barbecue tank around, that's a quick connect line. You can get a quick connect line from us here at the store to hook up to whatever you need it to. It's going to be a great addition. It's plumbed in right to your tank, so again, you don't have to carry around any extra propane with you. If you'd like to get set up with that, just contact the parts department. They'll get in contact with you. And then in this last compartment is the biggest storage compartment of them all. Most of them do have lights in them, so you can turn them on and off as you desire. Again, if you're going to leave them on, they will draw battery power. And now for the best part, you can take a step on inside, opening up that door. Underneath your stairs, first thing, if you undo that latch, it's where you get access to your 2 house batteries. Sorry, just gotta figure out, get that latched on there. There we go. And now if you take a look inside here, you got a bunch of different light switches. Now that's going to turn on a bunch of the main living lights, some accent lighting, some little lights, stair lights inside here and inside the bus. You got a bunch of different awning lights, again, accent lighting. This is going to be your awning control. Push that switch out. It's going to start making its way out. Now, whenever you're running that awning out, you're always going to want to make sure you keep an eye on the wind speeds. Once they do start picking up, you're going to want to make sure you bring that awning in. That way you don't run the risk of ripping your fabric or bending your arms. You're going to know that awning's fully extended when you see the back of the metal tube where the little flap hang down. Sometimes the flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it a couple feet to pull it back out for that flap to come down, but you see it came down right now. So now you're at your full extension, flaps down, the back of the metal tube. Now, if it were to start raining, you can take any arm, front or rear, pull down to the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now, if you like that angle better because it's going to allow for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just make sure that you do push these arms back to straight before you bring that awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. Another thing to keep in mind, if you had to roll this awning in while it was wet, it's not the end of the world. Just trying to make sure to roll it back out at your next earliest convenience. Allow it time to dry off. That way you don't accelerate the growth of mold or mildew. To retract it, you're just going to push the button up. The awning's going to start rolling its way in. Just keep an eye on it. Make sure you want to make sure that it's rolling the right way in. And once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motor will automatically cut out. Again, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have anything caught on there. It's going to cause any binding. Make sure you're watching it just to make sure it's rolling in nice and straight and even. On the wall, you got your battery disconnect switch with it in the on position like it is now. The batteries are connected to the unit. If you return it to the off position, the batteries come disconnected from the unit. Solar controller right here. There's gonna be a bunch of different settings you can look into. That's gonna go for this, your inverter, and also as your auto gen start system. There's a bunch of different settings you can play with on them. I'm gonna recommend going over the owner's manual to get them set up just because it does go pretty in depth. Your solar controller though is set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside hitting that solar panel, it's going to be applying a charge to your 2 batteries. Over here, auto gen system, again, you're going to have to go into some settings to get it set up. But if you enable it, if your batteries drop below a certain voltage, the generator will automatically fire up. This button here, this is to turn your inverter on and off. Push the power button. It's going to turn the inverter on. It's going to take a few seconds, but once you do turn it on, it converts your 12-volt power into usable 120-volt power. Power button to turn that off. Whenever you're not using it, always remembering to turn it off. It's just that much easier on the system. Now we can take a step on inside. On the wall, you got your monitor panel system. So if you push the button, it's going to tell you the corresponding level of whatever you push. Generator start stop switch. So this is going to be how you fire up your generator. Of course, on the outside, there is a manual one to override this, another start stop switch, but typically I guess you're going to be just using it inside here. Push and hold the stop button for about 5 to 10 seconds, keeping in mind that the fuel level on the bus does have to be over a quarter tank for the generator to get any fuel. Once you held that start stop switch for 10 seconds, you can hit the start switch. Just giving it a second. Sometimes it doesn't always start the first try. And there you go. Hit it the second try, it does fire right on up. Now just keep it in mind, because this generator runs off gasoline, it's plumbed into your vehicle's main tank. It's a small engine, much like your gas operated lawnmower at home. So I know that running 91 octane fuel inside this bus isn't really that efficient. It's not really a reasonable thing to ask. So the best thing to do with this generator is make sure that you always run it up. You know, try and run it up once a month just to keep fuel cycling through it. Run it up, run it for 15 minutes, run it while you're running your air conditioner. That way it just gets nice and hot and just has that cycle, able to cycle through the old fuel into the fresh fuel. It's also a good idea, even if you put a little bit of fuel stabilizer in, which you each fill up, it's going to help you greatly in the end. Aside from that, you got a tank heating system in this unit. It's for extended camping seasons. Now, unfortunately, our Manitoba winters get much too cold for it to be adequate. Realistically, if you're camping below -0, you run the risk of things freezing, so just keep that in mind. It's realistically for that 1 degree to 5 degree era. Again, camping below -0, things will freeze. Just keep that in mind. Water pump switch, turning that on, obviously draws out of your fresh tank. Down below, you got your power control system. It's going to be kind of to do with your different generator. You got you can scroll between all your different things. It's going to tell you what it's currently doing, what it's drawing, all that sort of thing. Thermostat. First thing I'm going to go over is your fan speeds. So whenever you're in the on section here, that's for the air conditioner fan. The air conditioner fan is going to run full time regardless of what you have the room set to. If you switch over to the auto setting, that's the setting I recommend using. It creates an on-demand system, so it'll kick in and out as needed. Using the mode button, turning it once to the right, that's going to fire up the furnace. The furnace runs off propane. I always recommend purging the system through your stove before you fire up anything else propane. I'm going to go over that in a second, but it's just so that you can fire something up first try, because this will only try lighting itself a couple times before it'll throw a fault code and won't light. If you don't know what it means, it could throw some frustration again, so I just recommend firing up your stove first thing. Turning it over to the fan option, that's just moving air around using your air conditioner, no heating or cooling involved. And then you got lastly the cool option, which means the air conditioning takes into effect, all that good stuff. Up above my head, you got 2 different options. You can run these louvers open, which means it's going to dump all its air into the main living space, or you can close them off, in which case it will move its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout. Now this is the first thermostat of 2, because you have 2 air conditioners on this unit. So this one's going to be for this front air conditioner. It's going to be the main thermostat. The rear one is only going to handle the rear air conditioner. That's it. And it works exactly the same way as this one. Right down below, you got your electronic leveling system. So now for that to work, you do have to have the key on in the ignition, key on, and the parking brake set for it to work properly. And you are going to want to have your slide out before you use it. But I'll just hit that slide out extend option. Sorry, have to kill the key again, but before we kill the key, I'll just go over it quickly. Hit turn the power button. Again, the key has to be on. If it's saying low voltage, it just means the battery voltage isn't enough to run it, so you might just have to turn the brake on. Again, parking brake set. So there you go. Now technically all you really have to hit is auto. It's going to automatically level the unit, run each stabilizer jack down. Again, it's going to be a good idea to have your slide out already out, and you might have to carry some blocks around with you because you don't want those jacks at their full extension. The lower the jacks are in their rams, the better it is. So you might have to bring some blocks around you, and if you're on some super unlevel ground, you don't want the front tires on the bus coming off the ground. You want to make sure that those tires are still planted on the ground. Same goes for the rear. It's just super hard on the system to not have it that way. Then if you want to retract all the jacks, you hit the all retract button. It's going to retract all the jacks. Now let's say you don't want to use the leveling mode. You forgot to bring blocks with you. Grounds 2 and level, everything's going out of whack. You can use the manual level option if you want to do it manually, so that in case you didn't want to fully extend anything. Power button again to turn it all off, turns it all off. Now as an added little feature here, if you have the key in the ignition at all, you can't operate the slide out and you can't operate the awning. So you're gonna have to run your slide out and stuff out with the key out of the ignition and then run your stabilizer jacks down after that. To run your slide out, you just hit that extend button, the slide out's gonna start making its way out. Now before you do that, I always tell customers it's a good idea. You're gonna wanna do a quick visual check inside, make sure that there's nothing that's shifted during travel that's gonna get stuck between the slide out and the wall, causing any damage. Same goes for up top or in the back. Things do move during travel, it happens. Just be mindful of it when you're running it. Be mindful on the outside that you have enough room for it to go all the way out. Push and hold that extend button, the slide out's gonna start making its way out. Once the slide out hits its full extension, you're gonna hear the motors wind up and then you can just let off the button. Again, being visual, making sure it's going out even and straight. Everything's extended, we're all good to go. Now there's going to be tons of storage throughout this unit, whether it's under the dinette, the cupboards, the drawers, everything. Tons of storage. Whenever you're using any of it, just be mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You're not going to be wanting to affect any of that when you are piling things in here. In addition to that, all the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. One quick pull to retract them back up. An exception for that very front one there's even going to be a sticker on it telling you that it's motorized. Because again, it's motorized. The button for it is right here. Push that button down. The shade starts making its way down. I think that's pretty sweet of them to include. You push the button up, the shade starts making its way up. You got this guy here if you want to drop that into place. That they just have it out of the way for travel reasons, so you have more headspace. But you just have to plop it in place, and then you got that ladder there so that people can get in and out nice and freely. Now you're gonna notice you got two speakers under here. You're probably wondering how they work. They do run off the front dash stereo. You can run it even with the key out of the ignition, but just keep it in mind that that stereo does run off your bus battery, so it will slowly drain your battery. It's a good idea to keep an eye on the level of that so that you don't run it completely dead. You got all kinds of plugins throughout here. These are going to be two recliner chairs in the middle. You get a little storage space. You got your table here. It's set up for your typical dinette setting. Now let's say you had some extra guests you didn't plan on having out. You could just take this little latch underneath the table, flick it out of the way. That'll allow you to push that down. Of course, you'd have to have these cushions out of the way, and then it would sit into place on the ledges. Then you can take your back cushions to fill in the center, and you can have yourself another bed. Now, if you're new to the RV world, you're probably you're probably asking yourself, how many people can I fit here? Now, legally, in Manitoba especially, you are limited to the number of passengers to the number of seatbelts. So in this case, you got two up front, and I believe you have two over here, and underneath this couch, I believe there is two more, but you have to go under there and dig them out to get them up top. The prior customer didn't use them because they only traveled with two of them. If you'd like to get that done, again, just let our service manager know so he can let us know to see if they're there. But again, just keep in mind you are limited to passengers to seatbelts, otherwise you risk yourself a ticket. Get your fridge freezer combo, full-size fridge and freezer, which I thought was pretty nice. Got your temperature control for the freezer up top, temperature control for the fridge down below. Recommended setting, that's going to be the most efficient setting to run it off, but of course the coldest setting is the coldest. Power button, you gotta push and hold it for 3 seconds to turn it off. Now whenever you've had this fridge running for a while and then you're leaving the unit, you're not using it, whatever the situation may be, it's always a good idea that once you turn it off to let these doors stay open with some towels inside. That way it can soak up any moisture that creates, any condensation that creates, so it doesn't get moldy inside of there. It's going to be very important if you're new to camping. That might have been something you didn't know, but most people do know that have had campers before. In your kitchen space, it's pretty standard, pretty much just like home. Convection oven up top, storage all around. All these windows also work the same way. They're just crankers. Crank them clockwise, opens them up, counterclockwise to close them down. But whenever you're traveling, always making sure you have these windows closed. Otherwise, with wind and stuff, you do run the risk of breaking them. You got a little power bar back here in case you had something you need to plug in with a couple of USBs. Comes in and out just like easy like that. One thing I did forget to mention, because of the sheer unit of this size, and of course the dark color, which is beautiful on the outside but does attract sun, it can get pretty hot inside here while you're traveling. Now the option is available to travel with your generator running to run your air conditioner on the roof. Just keep it in mind whenever you are running that, it's sucking back an exceptional amount of fuel. So plan your stops accordingly. Up top, you got one side, which is it's magnetic, so you do have to have a magnet. Sorry, I can't speak English today, but you know what I mean. You gotta have the proper frying pan to go on top of here. Most nowadays are, but if you didn't have one, you would need to get one for this to work. But of course, then you got your two gas burners on the other side. So I went over purging when we went to go over our furnace. I brought it up. Now the reason I was telling you to do that, because again, if you don't purge system first, you could have issues with firing other things up. And the reason I'm telling you to do your stove is because you get to decide how long the gas runs for and how many lighting sequences it goes through. But whenever doing so, of course, being safe, if you turn this knob to on and you don't hear that clicker going and you don't see any flame coming up, sometimes it can take a few minutes. It did pop up pretty quick today just because I had the system running earlier. But as long as you're hearing that clicking, you're good to go. But if you didn't hear the clicking and there was to be a buildup of gases and then for some reason a combustion source would have started, it could cause a minor combustion if there was that buildup of gases there. So just be safe whenever you are using it because it is gas. Now, because this unit has gas equipped inside of it, you got your LP detector out back here inside your, sorry, let me find it. It's underneath your dinette here. You got that detector right over there. If that guy does ever start going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply propane underneath the unit there and open up some windows and vents to ventilate things out. Because again, when you're burning off propane, it takes oxygen out of the air. So once the oxygen got to a worrisome level, that guy would start going off. So again, don't panic. Just turn off the propane, open up some windows and vents to get some fresh air inside of here. Taking another step further back, again, you're going to have tons of storage space throughout here. Wherever you look, there's pretty much storage. Above my head, you got your first roof vent. That one's not power, but the very front one and the bathroom one will be. You just have to open it up, pull the lever down counterclockwise to open her up. Now, the prior customer was already kind enough to install max air covers. So let's say you were to start traveling. You're not going to damage your vent lid by leaving it open because you have that cover there. And if it were to start raining, you could leave it open and running and it's not going to get wet inside of here. Get your fan controls in that one corner there. First setting is the slowest setting, and then you got 4 more settings after that. Power button to turn it off, and then you can just close her up again and lock it into place. You're going to also find tons of accent lighting throughout this unit. You're going to kind of discover it probably as you own it. Again, feel free to explore. It's quite great. You got your bathroom here. Opening up that door. The door will swing around. We got 2 switches. One's going to do the lights. The second one is going to do your second vent, which again is going to operate the same way as the front one, except their bathroom one doesn't have a lid on it. So if it were to start raining, it's going to get wet inside of here. And if it were to start, you leave it open during travel, it could damage itself. If you'd like to get set up with one more cover, you just contact the parts department and they'd be more than happy to provide you with a quote. Aside from that, it's a pretty standard bathroom storage, shower, skylight up above. On the wall here, you got your main GFI plug. 80% of the plugs are going to be ran through GFI. If it senses moisture, it trips itself, it kills the power to the outlets. So if you ever have one that doesn't work, just make sure the system isn't tripped. And then right next to it, you do have your thermostat for your water heater, power button to turn it on and off, up or down at any point to change your set temperature, and you can change between Celsius and Fahrenheit with the press of a button. Now, because this is a tankless system, it does work a little bit differently than your standard one. At home, you crack your hot, you turn that on, and then you use your cold to blend in so you can bring it down to that right temperature. Because this is a waterless system and the water's flowing through a coil with a big flame in the middle, and as it's flowing through, it's heating it, you don't want to have to blend your cold. So how you're going to know, you're going to probably start it around 46 is probably what I'm going to recommend. Now that might be too hot or it might be too cold. Start it there, see how you like it. You just want to be able to run your hot tap on and have it being comfortable. That's where you set the temperature and leave it. That's just how it's going to run the most efficiently. You can't blend the cold, but like I said, it does take away from the efficiency. Coming into the bedroom, power button on a light switch on your left. You do get that back thermostat to control this rear air conditioner. It works the same way as the front one, which I've already showed you. Other than that, pretty standard bedroom. You got a TV mounted up front here. And then right below the bed, you get your main fuse and breaker panel. Popping that guy down. You get all your breakers. Whenever one trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. And you have all your corresponding fuses on the other side. Now underneath the bed, you pick up the mattress. You're going to have this little trap door. This one. This will slide out of the way here. Now, if you're going to notice, you got a water filter, so that's going to be something you're going to need to make sure you winterize if you do it yourself. And of course, you're going to have to replace the water filter every once in a while. This is also where you get access to your water pump for winterization. And now you're going to notice this valve here. This valve is to drain the fresh tank. If you crack that open, it's going to drain all the fresh water out of the tank. Sliding that guy back over before you put the bed down, that way it doesn't damage anything. That is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.